Hi there, welcome or welcome back. My name is Roxy and I am the crafter behind Roxy's Craft. Welcome to the 9th video recap that I have in a series where I show my weekly makes in preparation for an event that I'll be attending on the 13th of June. Today marks the 1st of June, so that is exactly, I guess, 12 days away, or 2 weeks, 1 weekend. So it's pretty crazy that 9 weeks has gone this quickly, and the event is basically right at the doorstep. I'm in a bit of a, I don't really, I feel stressed, but at the same time I'm kind of like, I have what I have, it is what it is. I'll just keep on going and see what I can do over these past 2 weeks. At the end of last week's video, I had left off explaining everything that I was going to make this week. I did do what I said I was going to do, however my plans did change slightly, but I will get to that when we get there. Before I go further into that, I first want to show you what I had made on the Monday after I had filmed the video. So as stated in the previous video, I made some Perry keychains. There are 4 of them in total. They are really cute. I am so happy with them. They're just so cute. I actually want to keep one myself, but that's fine. We'll see how well they sell, and I could always make myself one. So here is Perry the platypus. He's a really nice size for a keychain. I did discuss how I made him last week, however I will repeat everything for this week. So this is Perry the platypus. He is based on a pattern by Lil Star Per on Instagram. Lil Star Per's free pattern on Instagram is slightly bit bigger, however what I did was I went and altered the pattern and condensed it. So instead of, I think, 24 or 26 stitches in the round, I condensed it down to 18. It's pretty easy to do if you know how to do maths. You can do this. So I had used a 4mm hook. I had used 10mm safety eyes and Parfait Chunky in Lagoon, Tangerine and Teddy Bear, and then obviously a little keychain finding. It is completely no-sew. The tail is made separately but crocheted in, and the little beak is literally crocheted while you're doing the round, and same goes as for the hat. As you can see, it was just front looped, and then you start with the Lagoon color on the back loop. Overall, really easy, fast and quick pattern to make. At the end of the Monday, I would say I was able to do all of these within half an hour each keychain. So yeah, by Monday evening I had finished all 4, and I was like, hallelujah, I can finally start the thing that's probably the most important. So in my last video I had stated that I want to start making Pokemon. I did manage to make quite a few. I restocked my Gen 1 Pokemon, and then I also made some Gen 2 Pokemons and Eevees. And today, because it's a public holiday here in New Zealand, I've managed to crochet all of today. Some other Pokemon, however I won't be showing those today, as that will be considered next week's video's update. That explains the K-tape, why I'm wearing it, because the yarn that I'm using for Ditto is a little bit rougher than Parfait Chunky, for instance, and so it just tends to flare up my arm a little bit, or my tendinitis. So that's why I wear K-tape, exactly how my physio had shown me to put on, and it does amazing things. Like it's pure magic. But going on from that, I did say that I wanted to make all the evolutions. However, I just simply am not going to have time, and I would prefer to have more of a bigger variety than concentrate purely on just Pokemon. The evolutions are all based off the same Eevee pattern, That Eevee pattern takes me about an hour 40 to make, and so as you can imagine, throughout the week that means I can only make one item a night, and you know, I've only got 2 weeks left, so, and I would prefer to have 3 of every item, so it's just not feasible. I think I will give all the evolutions a miss, and perhaps for a potential, you know, other market or other event or convention that I'm gonna hopefully be attending, I will rather make the evolutions for that. But yeah, I will go first through all the things that I remade to stock up from the Gen 1 Pokemon. First on up, I had to make more Bulbasaurs. So I only made 2 because I already had 2. For the Gen 1 Pokemon, I like to have 4 on hand because they are quite popular, and yeah, they're a really nice size, as you can see. So here is Squirtle. He is completely made out of Parfait Chunky. He is made out of light blue, yellow, teddy bear and white. He has 16mm Kawaii safety eyes, and the hook size that I use is a 5mm hook. I more or less follow the pattern. It's just between the 2 bottom bobbles I do 5 single crochet instead of the suggested amount, because that's purely that's my tension. I can confirm for all the other Gen 1 Pokemon I did the same. Again, tension, I guess. And yeah, the pattern designer of Squirtle and the other Gen 1 Pokemon is No Way Jose on Instagram. He has a Elemental Monsters pack, and it's brilliant. It's so quick to work up. I love all of them. The body is crocheted. The shell is crocheted separately, and same as the tail, and then you just sew these 2 pieces onto the main body, and it's fairly easy, honestly. And it's quite cute. I've made Squirtles and all the Gen 1 Pokemon so many times now. Honestly I can do it with my eyes closed probably, but yeah, that's Squirtle. Next on up was 2 Charmanders. Again, very cute. Same pattern designer, No Way Jose. Again, completely made out of Parfait Chunky, 5mm hook, tangerine, yellow and poppy for the tail, and 16mm Kawaii eyes. The body is made as, you know, as complete, and then the tail is made separately, and then you just sew on the tail. And yeah, just like all of No Way Jose's patterns, very easy to make and very cute and very sizable. Next on up, I had to make only 1 little Bulbasaur. I already have 3 in stock, so just made the extra 1. Again, No Way Jose from that pattern pack. I actually used a mixture of Parfait Chunky and Yarn Smith's Chenille. So with Parfait Chunky I had used Sea Glass and Lagoon, and then for Yarn Smith's Chenille I had used Sage for the little bulb. Similar to the other 2, 16mm Kawaii eyes and a 5mm hook. And again, you make the whole body, the ears are crocheted in, you make the bulb, sew on the bulb, and then obviously the little lagoon colour that you just surface crochet to do his little spots that he has on his head. But yeah, he's really cute and chunky, and he stands fairly well. He's not, you know, top heavy or head heavy. He actually does stand pretty well, which is pretty cool. After that, we finally have the last Gen 1 Pokemon that I had to make. So here is Pikachu. Again, just 1 because I already have 3 others in stock. And very much like everything else, No Way Jose, 5mm hook, 16mm Kawaii safety eyes. Again, Parfait Chunky, so this time in Sunshine, black, and then a little bit of teddy bear here at the back. And then for the little 2 red cheeks, I just use cotton yarn. No Way Jose doesn't have the cheeks on his pattern. So, you know, the first time I ever made this pattern, I had just freehanded some circles. So it's literally just a 6 single crochet and a magic ring increased completely to make 12, and yeah, that's really it. You fasten off and you sew it on, and yeah, it's pretty cute. I'm always so surprised how Pikachu is not the most popular one. There is always Pikachus left over, and yeah, I find that quite surprising, because back when, you know, back in the 90s, Pikachu was like the favorite. You could not get enough of him. There were so many soft toys and merch and all of that. So it's funny how people's interests have waned and they prefer other types of Pokemon and not just Pikachu. But that's okay. It means that I can make a lot more other types of Pokemon. Once I finished restocking the Gen 1 Pokemon, I then went on to Gen 2. By then it was already end of Wednesday and going on to Thursday. So the first one that I obviously had made and as a test run a couple of weeks ago was Totodile. And so when I tested this pattern, you know, a new to me pattern, not a new pattern overall, but yeah, when I had tested the pattern to see if I liked it, I really enjoyed the size. It's very comparable to No Way Jose's pattern. It's maybe just that smidge smaller, but that's okay. I'm sure nobody will notice. I hope. But anyway, so I had obviously made the original one, which I'll be keeping, and then starting Wednesday night and over Thursday as well, I made 3 Totodiles. And aren't they just the absolute cutest? I'm so happy with them. They're just so adorable. So a little bit about Totodile. Much like Gen 1 Pokemon, I had used a 5mm hook. I had used 16mm Kawaii safety eyes and Parfait chunky, so I used turquoise for the main body, yellow for his little yellow belly, and then poppy for the little fire or spikes that he has at the back. And I had used just a little bit of cotton just for his little nostrils. He, very much like the others actually, you first crochet the entire body, you crochet the tail separately, and then you just sew on the tail, and then you surface crochet the little fire things over here. The little eye things you crochet separately, and then you actually crochet them in. So these ones aren't sewn, they just crocheted in while you're making the face, and that's honestly pretty cool. Totodile and rest of the Pokemon that I will be sharing are called Teeny Moms, which is pretty cute. And the pattern designer is Hooked Crochet Cuties on Instagram. And yeah, they not only have Gen 2, they also have Gen 1s, they have all the evolutions, and they also have a couple of other Pokemon patterns along with some other patterns as a whole. But yeah, really cute. They actually work up pretty much the same amount of time as these Gen 1 Pokemon, so I'm pretty happy with that. It usually takes me about an hour 20, so I'm pretty happy with that, because they are, you know, quite detailed things, and there is sewing involved and all of that. But yeah, very cute, and I'm happy that I've got 3 to sell. After that, I made Chikorita. Very cute. This is the one that I will be keeping, and I know it's the one that I'll be keeping because I gave it the pretty poor eyes, because some of the safety Kawaii eyes that I had received were not the best quality, and so usually if there's not, you know, good quality safety eyes, I use them for the makes that I keep for reference. So a little bit about this pattern, very similar to everything else. 5mm hook, 16mm Kawaii safety eyes, Parfait chunky and key lime and pistachio, and the whole body is crocheted, and the leaf is done separately that you then just sew on. The pattern does say to crochet or surface crochet it on, but I honestly don't bother with that. It's just faster and easier for me just to sew it on. So this was the one that I made for myself. And just like Totodile, here are 3 that will be going to the event to be sold. And yeah, they are just too cute. Honestly, I can't. The face is just too cute. The pattern does say to make, to give it a little smiley face, but nah, I didn't really like that. I prefer them to be mouthless. So yeah, very, very cute little chicoritas. Once I have finished Chikorita, it was then Saturday morning and I was making a start on Cyndaquil. So Cyndaquil took me quite some time. The pattern that was part of the Johto League Pokemon pack was a lot smaller in comparison to the other Pokemon, and even now it is quite a bit smaller. The largest round was only 18 stitches, and honestly it was just way too small, even when I sized up my hook to a 5.5. So very much like, I guess, my Perry keychains, what I did was I took the pattern and I sized everything up. I made it so the biggest round is 24 stitches instead. Because this is the one that I will be keeping myself, I unfortunately made the nose a bit too big. This was 10 single crochets around, when, if you can believe, the original one was 6. But yeah, 10 single crochet was just a bit too big, so I had noted 8 single crochets for the nose would have been plenty. I did have to add an extra round on the head just to make it, a little bit proportionate, but everything basically follows the pattern that Hooked Crochet Cuties had made. And so yeah, I guess a bit about this pattern. I had used a 5.5mm hook, Parfait Chunky in Sundown, Yellow and Poppy for the little flares. I think what I would like to do is, if these all sell out on the 13th of June, I would like to perhaps alter the pattern and rather do the actual fire, the little fire parts rather than just the little buds that he currently has. I have made a Cyndaquil, I think the year before last, for a co-worker, and that particular pattern did have the little fire. You just crochet, I think it was 1 red and then 2 orange and 2 yellows, and then you just sew them all together and then sew them all on to the back. So I might do something similar, and because it's so much smaller, I would imagine the flames don't have to be that big in comparison to the previous Cyndaquil that I had made. And then last but not least, for the eyes, I had just used cotton yarn to give it a little happy face. So this is the one that I made with the bigger nose. And here are the 3 that I had made to sell. And as you can see, this time the nose is a lot smaller. This time it was done with 8 single crochets rather than the 10 for the one that I'll be keeping. And yeah, it was so cute. I do really enjoy it, even though Cyndaquil is a little bit smaller than his other friends, but that's okay. I'll still charge the same price, and hopefully, they'll find their homes. But yeah, that was kind of it for the Johto League Pokemon, or Gen 2 League Pokemon, or Gen 2 Pokemon. So I honestly had a lot of fun making all of these. There are more in the pattern pack that I would have liked to make, but honestly I do not have the time with only 2 weeks left. It's a bit worrisome. I want to hone in on getting a variety rather than just Pokemon. On Sunday, or yesterday, I had quite a lot of other things to do, so I didn't get to crochet too much. Out of the entire Sunday, all that I did was make 4 EVs. Granted, I will say the pattern did take me 1:40 to make each. My first one, this one that I had made, actually took me 2 hours. That's purely my own fault, because yeah, my tension is a bit different on this feeties, and I had to figure out how to crochet in the ears. This particular one, it's not done properly because they are pointing slightly outwards, but I'll show you with the others how it is meant to actually look like. But yeah, this is Evie. Again, same pattern designer as Hooked Crochet Cuties. Very much, I guess, similar things. I had used a 5mm hook, primarily Parfait Chunky, so teddy bear and chocolate. However, I did use oatmeal from Yarn Smiths for the little fluff chest piece and the little tail, only because I like this color a little bit more than the cream or the marshmallow. And then the little eyes that I had used were 14mm safety eyes. I didn't give Evie any kawaii eyes because the pattern, you know, just gave little black ones, and I think the little black ones are absolutely fine. So yeah, this was my first little Evie, the one that I'll be keeping. Very, very cute. I should actually probably make mention, because I just realized that I didn't for Cyndaquil, but anyway, so you make the whole body. The ears are made separately, but you crochet them in. The chest piece is crocheted separately that you sew on, and the tail is also crocheted separately that you crochet within the round. So if you think about it, it's a very low sew pattern, similar to, I guess, all the other Pokemon, because technically the only thing that you really sew on is the chest, and I just tacked on the tail back here just so it's not, you know, flopping downwards. Here are the other three that I had made. Aren't they just too cute? I honestly, Evie is just too adorable. She's or he, you know, could be any gender, I guess, but Evie is one of my favorite Pokemon, so I was really, really happy to finally make an Evie, and a really cute one at that. So here's a really good example of how the ears are now facing forward, or you know, that the darker parts of the ears are facing forward. So this is how it's supposed to be. Not like this. But hey, it took some learning, I guess. And yeah, for the most part I didn't really have to alter the pattern. The only place that I did was over here. I just added an extra single crochet between these two legs, otherwise it just looked a little bit too skew, while now it looks a little bit more even. But yeah, despite making 3, like I said, it still took me an hour 40 to make, so yeah, I guess it's just a more longer pattern, I guess. It's kind of crazy to think that this takes you nearly, well, takes me nearly like 2 hours to make, and I'm only going to be selling for $20, so it makes you curious. But you know, I can't really raise my prices, otherwise no one will actually buy my things. Handmade crafts like this isn't very sought after here in Auckland, or at least the places that I vend at, and it's generally a lot of young families with young kids, and you know, with this economy not many people are actually wanting to buy. So what I generally do is just materials times 3, and then just round it up to the nearest equal number, whether it be 10, 20, I do a bit of 15s, 30, 40, 50, etc. But yeah, little Evie. Before I discuss what I would like to make for the next week, I thought I'd show you all the skeins of yarn that I worked through this past month of May. I will say some of these were already half skeins, but majority of them were full skeins, and I am so shocked that I worked through this much yarn. It honestly doesn't feel like it, like, at all. So here's the 2 lots that I have. I've got obviously Yarn Smith Chenille, and I've got all my Parfait Chunkies. In total, I had used 7 skeins of Yarn Smith Chenille Chunky. These are actually a bit shorter in length than Parfait Chunky. They are both 100 grams, however this is only 100 meters, while Parfait Chunky is 120. I guess the difference is that Yarnsmiths is that slightly bit thicker, so if you used a 5mm hook in comparison to Parfait Chunky, it will end up that little bit bigger. So with Yarnsmith Chenille, if I want it to be the same size as Parfait Chunky, I use a 4.5. Again, that's maybe just my tension. But yeah, I used all of these. These were mostly used for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle items and all my Mario Galaxy items, so this was pretty cool. I can't believe it. Although thinking about it, I don't know if you can see here at the back, I actually put a little bit of masking tape with what I had used it. I think all of these are just, all of these are just used for Mario Galaxy characters. None of these were actually used for the Ninja Turtles. I guess those were from the previous month, so that's actually pretty cool. I'm so happy with that. Hallelujah for actually finally using some yarn. For the Parfait Chunky, I had used 11 skeins in total. Yeah, the colours range, like, honestly, so we have toffee, key lime, we've got another key lime, we've got a white, lagoon, teddy bear, yellow, light blue, key lime again, teddy bear again, and teddy bear again. I guess I had a lot of I guess half-used teddy bear skeins that they were all from the same batch. If you've watched any of my yarn haul videos, you'll note that I usually like to order 3 skeins of colours at once, so then I get the whole pack of the same allotment. And so yeah, I finally, I guess, finished one allotment with those 3 teddy bear skeins. A lot of these were for the Grogoogs and also the Pokemon. And yeah, honestly, I'm just so happy to have finished this many skeins. This is what I want to see. I'm very unusual in the sense of that I like to keep these. I have a little ring binder or ring folder where I separate them by months, and so by the end of the year I kind of look at all the skeins that I had used. And yeah, admittedly I keep them as well after that. I just put them in a clear file per year, and I guess I just keep them and file them away. I don't really chuck them, and I ought to, because there's not actually much other use for them, but I don't know. I like to keep things, I guess, or hoard them. My plans for this next week. It's already Monday evening here. I ought to actually try and finish up because I need to go and make some dinner. It's nearly dinner time. It's a really rainy, gloomy kind of day today. It's actually quite lovely. That's why my, you know, orange yellowy lights are on, and I'm looking a little bit peachy or pink because I've had my heat pump on. It's currently winter here. Today marks the first day of winter. But anyway, it gave me an excuse just to crochet all of today. I've been crocheting since 6 o'clock this morning. I had a bit of a sleep in. I don't think many people can consider 6 a.m. a sleep in, but it is for me, especially on a weekday. I have been working on some Pokemons today. I guess a little, you know, insight for you. I made some Psyducks, I made some Dittos, I also made some Ditto keychains. And yeah, other than that, I probably won't make much more other Pokemon. I might still make a Togepi and a Snorlax, but I'll see how I go. I'll test out the patterns tomorrow and see if I really want to make them, because I do still want to make some Pokeball keychains as well. But yeah, because I decided not to do the evolutions anymore, what I'm rather gonna do is just make all the other stuff that is on my to-do list. So as I said probably 100 times already, SpongeBob, Patrick, yeah, just Toothless. Toothless is very popular, so I ought to actually make at least one Toothless, even if just small. I want to make Derpy Tigers and also a Stitch. And you know, I had to weigh the, you know, the pros and cons. I just thought, you know what, this is a retro convention. I think people would prefer to see variety rather than just Pokemon. I did say that I was going to try and do a mock setup this weekend, however that just clearly did not happen. I didn't film it either, purely because I felt like I didn't yet have enough stock. However, I definitely have to do it next weekend because it's my last weekend before the event, so I have no option but to practice a mock setup. So I will definitely be doing that next weekend, and I will definitely be showing you how that looks like. I'll probably do it on the Friday evening because it feels then less time has been wasted. And yeah, other than that, it's basically home run really. You know, I can only do so much these next 2 weeks, especially next week. It will, you know, things will probably slow down because it's more like preparing, like getting my price tags ready and getting everything ready in the bins to make sure that, you know, everything has been set up nicely, so I can just take the I keep everything in storage bins, so I can just take the storage bins to the event and set up, etc. But yeah, that's kind of really it. It's pretty scary that we're already there. Admittedly, I have been trying to find other conventions to attend. I did reach out maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago to another convention. It's more to do with card games, so like Pokemon card game trading, One Piece, Magic the Gathering, that kind of, you know, card gaming. It's a convention that gets held 4 times a year here, plus a 5th one, which is the Christmas show. I reached out, and actually the beginning of this past, you know, last week, I finally got a response, believe it or not, and they said, yes, if you're interested, here is the application, please apply, this is the price. They still have spots open for the 11th and 12th of July, and so I pledged my interest. I'm now just waiting to hear back to see if I get accepted or not, or if they accept me. I know that that's a pretty crazy thing to do. That means I will only have a month to prepare for a 2-day convention, but at least I have the thought of, you know, it's a card game convention. It's basically, you know, it's Pokemon, it's anime, One Piece, it's nerdy, yeah, it's, you know, I think I'll be okay. I mean, maybe, I hope so. But yeah, I don't know yet whether I have gotten into it or not. I did also apply for the Christmas one that they have in December. They did have another one in September, however I can't attend that because I will be going to a anime convention that weekend, not as a crocheter but as a cosplayer, and yeah, unfortunately they fall on the same day, which is the Saturday, so I'm pretty bummed about that, but that's okay, you know, you can't have them all. I am also trying to get into another convention that happens once a month. I say convention, but it's more like a market. It's kind of Renaissance, medieval, fantasy based. Yeah, that's kind of it. Like like bookish things, book talk kind of things like candles and jewelry and, you know, Renaissance, mushrooms, potions, etc. Yeah, so I am hoping to apply for that. I was going to try and get into the one for July, but now I'm waiting for the card game convention, so I might shift that over to August. You apply at the, so for instance, to apply for the July one, the applications will open up this week, and then to apply for the August one, the applications open on the first week of July, so they kind of work that way. I've decided to maybe just stick to these kinds of markets and conventions. There are a couple of farmers markets that I was interested in. However, I don't really know if I would make my money back or if it would be worth it, especially because a lot of them are on a Sunday, and you know, it's usually you have to already start setting up at 6 a.m. and they are quite far away from me. So one of the markets is an hour-and-a-half drive away, and setup starts at 6 a.m. on a Sunday. So I know it's just once a week, however I'm a little bit like, last resort. There is another market that applications will soon open for. They only run between October to March, the end of March, which is I guess the spring and summer months here in New Zealand, and they run every month as well, once a month. But they're only about half an hour to 40-minute drive away from me on the motorway, but that's fine. And I'm a little bit more interested in them because they are a little bit more closer to me, and yeah, they're quite nice. It's a market that gets held on a private farm, so that's pretty cool. It's very family orientated. However, again, I prefer to, crochet nerdy things, and so obviously at markets like that you can't really, I mean you can, but you run into the risk of like copyright laws and all of that. At least at conventions, everybody's doing it, so you're not like this random person that's just making copyrighted or fan art really. So yeah, I'm still thinking about applying for that one, and luckily that one is on a Saturday. But yeah, I'm still thinking. Admittedly, like for instance these past 9 weeks, I have noticed that crochet has kind of taken over my life, and I do feel a bit tired. And yeah, I think I probably just need a break. I do have another retro event happening in November that's already been booked, loaded last year already, so I do still have that, and I do have hopes to vend at these really big conventions next year here in Auckland. They run twice a year, so I'm hoping to get into that as well. So I'm thinking that perhaps I shouldn't try and do monthly markets. I should just stick to these big conventions where I can crochet the things that I enjoy rather than the markets. However, it would be nice to make a little bit more extra income. But yeah, well, I'm now just rambling, so I will let you go. Thank you for watching my weekly recap video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Please subscribe if you want to see more from me. And aside from that, I hope you have a really lovely week, and I will see you next week. Bye bye!